I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. Boy, the year is going fast. I had a good time doing this show yesterday, live from the Minnesota State Fair. It was a special 2-hour edition. We were broadcasting live on KFAI and across all of our social media platforms as well. Great guests, great interviews, and a good time. And the State Fair energy is really a wonderful thing. Always nice to see more and more Black people at the State Fair and showing up with our talents, our gifts, and our patronage, but being present. And that's what we do. I had a talk with Mother Atum, who said that last week they had a Black business State Fair over at the Global Market, Midtown Global Market. And so it's cool that we leverage these themes, these branding opportunities to elevate what we are doing for ourselves and from within ourselves in the community as well, positioning our assets and our intentions in ways that give them more sale, more power. And so we keep doing that. In fact, that's why this program is important. We are creating what I call robust conversations with people and ideas in our community. We are giving voice to our aspirations, our vision, and we are establishing the idea in our own mind. We're creating a public mind that we have both an obligation and an opportunity to create, to co-create, to craft a future, a narrative that presents us as the winner. And what's cool about that is that for us, winning doesn't mean somebody else has to lose. We've got a way to talk about winning in which everybody can win. That's who we are. That's what we do. Well, let me get into today's program. I've got a great one standing by in just a second. One of the most fearless leaders in America, the president of the Minnesota State Senate, Senator Bobby Joe Champion. In 1 second, he'll be on. And after him, two intrepid, two fierce entrepreneurs, one focusing on housing, the other focusing on wealth creation, all together focusing on creating change, elevating our community, our people, and making our state a better place. Before we go forward, I want to remind you and invite you to support this conversation by subscribing. Go to YouTube Insight News MN and hit subscribe, share, and like, and tell everybody you know that they should be a subscriber. It costs you nothing, but you are really advancing the work by being in community with us here, doing the conversation with Al McFarlane. YouTube Insight News MN, subscribe, share, and like. We also are streaming at the YouTube channel of the Black Press of America, Black Press USA. We're streaming on 3 Facebook platforms. We're streaming on Twitter, and we're streaming on LinkedIn. We're connecting every way we can. We think that the connection is what makes the difference. Well, finally, before I start, I want to say that our friends over at the Minnesota Department of Health join us. We join them in promoting awareness and prevention and vaccinations for the COVID-19. And even though the pandemic is declared officially over, we know that the COVID-19 virus and challenge is still a problem. And we need to be prepared to follow protocols. In that regard, we're lifting up different organizations within the community that are doing the work of helping you protect yourself and your family. The Minnesota POC, People of Color Pride, presents a back to school bash coming up on the 1st in a couple of days, September 1st. And it's going to be over here in North Minneapolis at 2517 Golden Valley Road. It's called the Back to School Bash. And they're going to be giving away school supplies, having some food and fun games, free haircuts. It's going on from 10 o'clock to 1 p.m. For more information, 651-775-5733. Remember, be safe, stay safe, practice the protocols, and we're going to get through this and come through the other end stronger and better. Well, let me begin by bringing in Senator Champion. Brother Senator Champion, Mr. President Champion, good afternoon. Welcome once again to the conversation with Al McFarlane. How you doing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Al, and it's always so good to see and hear your voice. I must say, your person was trying to make sure that my head was strategically positioned, and so I thank him in advance for trying to make us look
That's good.
halfway decent. So sorry that I'm not always the most obedient person when it comes to making sure I have another computer so I could make sure my head was the right place. But thank you, Al. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for inviting me on to this conversation with Al McFarlane.
Well, you look great, first of all. And again, thank you. Let's jump right into it, though. What are the top things top of mind for you? I want to do two things. One, have you review again, once again, the accomplishments of the last session and what still needs to be worked on after the session, and what priorities are you setting for the session coming up next year?
Well, thank you so much for allowing me, first of all, to look back and to celebrate now and then to
Hmm.
look forward. So, if I look back, I think we had a very productive legislative session by all accounts. It's pretty mind blowing when you think about all that we were able to accomplish with making sure that we had a trifecta, because the whole idea was how do we move Minnesota forward? Sometimes, Al, there are so many things that we've been working on for a long time, and it's sometimes surreal just to know that we got it passed now, right? I can think of restore the vote. 55,000 people who didn't have an opportunity to vote because they had a felony on their record that may not have had anything to do with voting could not vote, could not participate in our democracy. And now they have an opportunity to do that. Or if you're talking about the PRO Act, women making a decision as to what they want to do with their body and for government not to make that decision for them. Regardless of the way we feel about it, a woman should be able to choose and make the decision
Hmm.
as to what she should do with her body. 100% energy. I was in Puerto Rico not long ago, and just looking at climate change and fighting climate change. And the reason why we have to do it, because guess what? Our Earth is warming at an alarming rate, right? And what are we going to do in real time in order to help? Even the Crown Act, I think it's important for people, especially Black women, to be able to go to work and wear their natural hair and for them to be judged on their skills and qualifications, and not someone discriminating against them because of their hair. Juneteenth as a holiday is the first time that Juneteenth as a state holiday. It makes me think about Randy Stanton, for an
Yeah.
example,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or all those who carried this bill and fought for this even before me. Or me even think about growing up in North Minneapolis, and I know Kenya McKnight is on, and she can probably attest to this. Growing up in North Minneapolis with Away and Spike and others had Youth Appreciation Day or Freedom Day is what they called it, right? In order to celebrate who we are and our freedom. I can go on and on, but one bill that I'm also particularly excited about outside of that, whether it's for college and making sure that's affordable, whether it's, hate crimes, and we're trying to make sure that individuals are not going to be, their religion is not going to be under attack, is our jobs and economic bill. We spent roughly 968 million. Um, that's to also make sure that we have a substantial investment in North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, and St. Paul, and also rural Minnesota. And the Promise Act, which I'm so committed to even before this day, because when Senator Hayden and I were working on equity bills since 2015, right? Now the Promise Act delivers and makes sure that we have money that's invested in our community intentionally, because so long we've been intentionally disinvested in.
Hmm.
Right. And so I can go on and on and on. And Al, thank you so much just for an opportunity to give you a brief look into the things that I am celebrating. So I celebrate that. And that's also why I'm glad that we're on talk about not just what we've done, but also talk about that bill and money that's available for our entrepreneurs, our Black women, North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, St. Paul, and other parts. So what
Mm-mm. I think we lost him for a second there. He'll come
we'll
back in a
have,
second.
I'm
Here
sorry.
we go. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a policy year, so we'll look at some additional policy around juvenile justice, for an example. We'll look at some other policy around jobs and economic development, and it's also a bonding year. So even though we did a bonding year, a bonding bill last session, we'll still have one coming up this session. So I'm excited about those things.
I had interviewed one of your colleagues, Representative Vang, and I think she was the head of the Agriculture Committee, I believe. Is that correct?
That is
But
correct.
what was interesting about the conversation, she's young, immigrant family. She may have been born here, but first generation, maybe. And what she said that struck me, something that you've been saying, and that is that right now in this recent, future, you all have been able to and have demonstrated the capacity to deliver massive resources to our community. And you've talked about that for years. You and Senator Jeff Hayden have been out there on the front line. And the history was that, sometimes the powers that be, the people that were entrenched, felt like, we're kind of at the margin and not a big deal. But your perseverance and pushing has enabled the emergence of a crop of BIPOC legislators that find themselves with a lot of power. And that's different. So describe the difference. Is that a fair description?
That's a fair description, Al. Think about this, that Jeff Hayden and I were the only two Black senators at one time. Of course, we had
dynamic duo.
the dynamic duo, right? We were always our yin and yang, right? We were always making sure that we could cover as much ground as possible. And that isn't to disrespect, for an example, Senator Harrington, who was before us, or Dr. Robert L. Lewis, who was the first African American that was elected in 1972 from St. Louis Park, by the way. Let me give some love to St. Louis Park. Mm-hmm. But now we have the most diverse House and Senate. Right. Even where I am, I got Senator Zainab Mohammed, Senator Claire Umu-Verbaden, Senator Aaron McQuaid, and others. Right. Mm-hmm. But they have power and they have the foresight. They have the value system that makes sense. And so over in the House, we have Rena Moran. Remember when I used to be in the House and Rena Moran was over there. And now we got Ruth Richardson over there. We got others who are like, serious about change and clear, right? And having that level of clarity is important. So it's really exciting to think about what we're doing, because it is true. If you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And it's great when you're at the table with your other colleagues, because you can lift up issues that they didn't think about before, right, or they didn't have the wherewithal or the willingness to say, you know what, this is absolutely true. And we are courageous about it, right? We talk to our colleagues about it. We make the case, and we also put our money where our mouth is. So you as elders, so Al, that's why I can think about you, and always why I'm so excited to be on your show, or the Spikes of the world, or the Babingtons of the world, and just others, Josie Johnson, Mahmoud El-Kati, right? Randy Stanton, John Jefferson, right? Gregory Gray. I still give respect where respect is due, but just think of the shoulders that we all stand on. And I often tell the people that I'm talking to, even in the Senate, the ideas that we have are not new ideas. They've been around, and somebody's been fighting for this a long time. And that's important for our young people, because sometimes our younger people, I'm still young, Al. I don't want you to think I'm not young, but our younger people think they just figured this out and no one else thought about it before that moment. Untrue.
They just woke up. That's all.
Right. And I just want folks to know, that's why I pay homage a lot to those who were before me, who carried legislation before me, because I think we should always give them the respect and honor that's due. Even though I may have gotten it across the finish line, it's someone else who was pushing that boulder even before I got there. Right. And I just think that's respectful. So I'm excited, as you can probably tell in my delivery, that we have an opportunity to think about Minnesotans and all of Minnesota and how we can do it in a real way.
Well, let's do some teaching. Another person that you and I were close to was Gary Sudduth, who was the leader of the Urban League. And he famously went public saying, follow the money, show me the money. Right. And so you are doing that, and what you were just describing was the ability and the willingness, the courage that you and your new colleagues have to horse trade, to negotiate. If we're going to be dealing, we're going to be dealing.
That's right.
You want something, I want something. And to be able to say that without fear and with conviction and with the intent of delivering what you must deliver for the people that put you in office and also for the good of the state. That's what I see you and the team doing. But talk about the money that comes to our community in this, out of this historic trifecta legislative session.
So it's two things I want to make sure that I ground in this discussion. One is Senator Carrie Disick for me. She is our Senate Majority Leader. She's a part, I'm a part of leadership with her, but having another leader or leaders who understand what we're doing. Well, I didn't have to convince her, right? She's already like, yep, absolutely. Right.
Yep.
And so that was important. Number two, for us to understand that what's good for, let's say, for an example, North Minneapolis or Senate District 59 is good for the rest of the state too.
Yeah.
Right. And so, believe it or not, Al, as president, I'm now also on the IRRB, which is on the Iron Range. Right.
Yep,
so
yep.
They've never had anyone who looked like me or come from the geographical location that I've come from. But the interesting thing is to be able to have robust discussion with them and get them to understand that, yes, I want to meet your need, but I also need you to meet my need.
Yep.
And how can we work together? Because it doesn't have to mean one person doesn't get something. We can say, hey, how do we all win? You said that earlier when you said winning.
Yeah.
Winning mean it doesn't have to mean that that you get and I don't. Everybody can win.
That's right.
How do we do it? And so with our bill, the jobs bill, the incredible investments that I was very intentional, and also Representative Hassan, want to give her credit, and Senator Muhammad, all the others that worked with me. It was very important for us to be very intentional about where resources went to. We didn't want to forget rural Minnesota. That's why there's money in there for rural Minnesota. We didn't want to forget suburbia. There are resources there. But guess what? I made the argument, along with others, that yes, we need to disproportionately put money in North Minneapolis and South Minneapolis and St. Paul, because guess what? These are the communities that have been traditionally disenfranchised, right? Or folks didn't make any real large investment in, right? So when I made that argument and grounded it in history and what is equitable, not equality, what is equitable, guess what? And then our folks were able to come to the table and be able to deliver. See, that's the other part of it. You can talk about resources and what should go, but everyone's going to ask you the question of, well, who's able to do it? We then could rise up NDC, which is Neighborhood Development Center, or MEDA, which is led by a Black woman, by the way, Renee Dawson, or MEDA, which is Metropolitan Economic Development Association. We call it MEDA, which is led by Dorothy Bridges.
Yep.
Right? And those women coming together, and Deed being a real partner, and I would say that Deed was very thoughtful about how do we do this, because we had to decide to do things different, right? We could, hey, Mom Mabley put it this way: if you do what you always did, then you're gonna get what you always got.
That's right.
And so we wanted to do something different. So that's how we can make sure specifically there's $125 million that is flowing just from my bill. This is not talking about bonding, education, ag, where we got money and opportunity around equity in all those bills. But in my bill, if you just think about the direct appropriation to Black Women Wealth Alliance, and you can be able to talk to Kenya, or to North at Work, or money that we got available to even on the bonding side to what is it, Neon, and also V3, or even when you think in terms of Girls Taking Action, Dr. Verna Price, or even Dr. Bravada Akinsanyas in another bill. But we're very intentional all the way across industries and disciplines to say that we need to have a place there. And so I'm excited about the fact that we got money.
I think we lose the bandwidth for a second, probably get him back in a second. Al McFarlane here, talking with President of the Senate, Senator Bobby Joe Champion out of North Minneapolis. I think he's back up now.
Yes.
There we go. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying how we got money, direct appropriations, and we got competitive grants, and we got money that was directed specifically to businesses as well. So that we have training, support for businesses. And remember this, in that $125 million, that is very clear as to what areas that it should go to. I didn't want there to just to be a pot and everyone compete for it, because then we will always get left behind. Because there are
Mhm.
some paper tigers that are much more strategically put together when it comes to being able to say what they will and will not do with it.
Mhm.
So North Minneapolis has a pot, South Minneapolis has a pot, St. Paul has a pot, and also rural Minnesota has a pot as well. So that was very intentional as well.
Awesome. And so we know we had a unique situation with the surplus. What does it mean going forward? Have we been able to, Senator Champion, hardwire the process in a way that as we go on, we might not have these budget windfalls that we had this year, but have we changed the process so that things that we are brought into the arena of opportunity can stay and grow, and that the opportunity window expands to bring more of our people? How do we get exponential in serving and creating vibrant Black community, Black economy, and community economy as well? What do you think?
Well, one of the things I think is important for us to do, and I think you and even Al Flowers, and others, how you hardwire these things is you demonstrate the success of what it is that you're doing,
Hmm.
right? So, yes, we have to think outside the box to communicate to our people, make sure that they're ready, make sure all the agencies are doing what they're supposed to, because it's about empirical data too, because they will say, oh, well, we gave you the money, but no one used it, right? And we know that can be by design. So we have to make sure we are designing opportunities for our people to know about it and to get in there and be prepared and making sure that it gets where it needs to get to. Here's the second part of that. We know that there was a reluctance to give money to us and other nonprofits because of other things, other challenges that had nothing to do with us, like
Right,
feeding our futures.
right.
Unfortunately, that had nothing to do with this. But I tell people this all the time. If one Black organization does something, it sets us all back, because now they're going to use that as the example. But we have to push back against that as well, right? Which I
Mhm.
did. Which is when they kept bringing that up. I said, well, wait a minute. Don't we have for-profit entities that sometimes don't do what they're supposed to? So
Hmm.
why are we going to focus on nonprofits, and why are we
Hmm.
going to focus on something that allegedly was that involved Black or brown people? A crime or unfortunate situations don't start or end with us. So that is how we make it possible. Because guess what? Deed is going to come back with a report to the legislature. Others are going to come back. And so if you have the right people still in place, that's how you hardwire it too. Because the
Hmm.
people who are making the decisions, if they're in the position to make the decision, then they will feel courageous enough and supported enough in order to hardwire it and say, not only are we doing it now, but this is an example of what we can do in the future and tweak it if we need to in order to make it stronger.
I know you got to leave in a couple of minutes. I wanted to shift a little bit as if we're talking at the barber shop. And if I saw you up there at the barber shop, I'd say, Bobby Joe, Bobby Joe, uh, what you think about Donald Trump and what you think about what's going on nationally? What does that mean for the spirit of the country, and how does that trickle down to what happens in even our little neighborhoods? And I'm thinking about two things. One is that horrific shooting at uh, Jacksonville, where the armed
Mm,
person felt motivated, inspired. He was mentally, challenged, but he killed three
hmm
people at a Dollar General
hmm
store. And I'm thinking about also the stuff that happened at Montgomery, where these guys felt privileged to assault a city worker at the dock, but they met a
hmm
resistance from the community that at one level, some people are saying, while we decry violence, but there is something healing about that. What do you think from the barbershop conversation point of view about these big stories?
Well, first of all, let me start here. If you and I were at the barber shop, my son would tell me that he doesn't know why I'm at the barber shop. I'm there to get a head massage because I don't have any hair, first
Well,
of all. But I love him, right?
yeah.
Um, but Al, you're right on. There's so many things that's going on in our society that we have to pay real attention to, because if we dismiss it and don't deal with it in real time and be intentional about our reaction to it, then it will create only a continued erosion of our democracy. So let's start here. Donald Trump, for an example. He is a person who served as president. We believe there's no one that is above the law. It's really clear from Georgia and other places that he intentionally tried to call and press them to find him the votes that he needs in order to continue to become president. Secondly, even with the information that's put forward, we started losing this battle years ago when we let Donald Trump and the others start normalizing alternative facts.
Mm-hmm.
When we start normalizing that phrase, that means a person can look at the sky being blue and could say that based on my truth, it's green.
Mm-hmm.
No, here's a fact, right? When are we going to go back to fact? And that's important because if we're not careful, we will begin to accept behavior that undermines our democracy and threatens our future. And what did Martin Luther King said? A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So here we have a person who is now charged in at least 4 different places or spaces about their behavior, along with individuals who participated, right? And that creates acceptance. And then you can look at, unfortunately, the other party, which is the Republican Party or GOP, who seems to just accept this as if it's okay, and then to say it's politically motivated. Yes, it's politically motivated because he was interested in politically stealing an election. You're right about that point, but the context in which they're trying to use it is unfortunate. But we also know that Donald Trump stands for something else, which is it's okay to be disruptive and not pay attention to anything and do whistleblower politics even when you think around race. You got what happened in, I think it was Milwaukee and just other places, when you think in terms of people who will take the law into their own hands and do whatever they want to do. So in Jacksonville, when you have a situation where somebody says, I don't like black people, and so I'm going to go in there and kill them. Right? And in fact, if my memory serves me correctly, he stopped at a historically black university first. And there was students who saw the guy getting out of his car, putting on like bulletproof vest and everything, and called security. And security intervened. A black security officer intervened in his car and ran him off. And that's how he ended up, even this person at the dollar store, right? And so race, and even the issue that happened on the dock. Right. And all the worker was trying to do, the black worker was trying to do is just say, hey, you can't park your boat there. But privilege will blind individuals who think they can do anything or anything they want. I was on vacation just to show you how this could run rampant. I'm in Florida. My sons are with me. We go on the Everglades in order to see these alligators. They tell us which boats you can get on, and they lead you. There was a couple that was there that wasn't, my persuasion, but there was a couple there. They say, "Hey, sir, and ma'am, you got to get on the other boat." They said, "We don't want to be on that boat. We want to be on this boat." They said, "This is not the way this goes. You have to go to the other boat." They said, "No, we're not leaving, and we're not getting off this boat. You then should just find a way in order for somebody else to go on that other boat, because we're not going on that boat."
Yeah.
And the person says, "Hey, sir and ma'am, you're holding up this entire boat because the others can't get on until you get off and get on your correct boat." They sat there and said, "We're not leaving. You better find another way by which to deal with this." That is what's going on. That's the danger of leaders and others we portray as leaders who are willing to allow their own privilege and what they want to happen to reign supreme and be paramount to everyone else's needs. That's what we're seeing. And we got to be careful, because if we don't, we're going to run afoul.
Well, and Bobby Joe, then let me ask you, Sarah Palin was on the news, I think a few days ago, making a warning about a revolution or about a revolt. And, I think the general media has tried to tamp down the bubbling subterranean chatter coming out of the extreme right white, where they are projecting and appear to be planning for civil war, and they're using civil war language. What do we have to do as ordinary Democrats, ordinary Black people, people of color, even ordinary moderate Republicans? What do we need to do to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a situation manufactured that tips the country into catastrophe? And because I think some of them, the disruptors, want that to happen.
Well, let me tell you, the first thing that we have to do is not be silent, right? We can't be silent about the things that we see and what's going on in the country, right? We have to speak to the question. That includes moderate Republicans, that includes all of us, right? And especially moderate Republicans, because y- it is your party that seems to be going awry and is really out front, right? So this is not like a private conversation that no one else is hearing. It's being done in public. And we know that silence sometimes mean agreement. Somebody has to say, hey, this is not the way we behave as Americans, and we're not going to do anything that challenges our democracy in this shape, form, or fashion. Now, as it pertains to us as people of color, I remember a long time ago that we were always taught that there was someone who was going to provoke a race riot, and that even the KKK or the neo-Nazis were preparing, even in Indiana and other places where they have militia camps and all the other stuff, right? So all this is doing for a person like me and others is going, oh, this is the very thing that our folks are always talking about. There was the possibility, because those were the ones who said over and over again, this is their country. They didn't want anyone else participating here, and they had their beliefs. We have to fight against things that's just un-American and unpatriotic, and we must define that. We, as people of color, are equally Americans as anyone else, right? We bled and suffered and fought and died for this country as well. And so we have to speak to the question. And if we don't, we'll allow folks to say, oh, no, it's not that serious. Wait a minute. A sink is eroded by a drip of water. It is not always by a flood of water. It just constantly drip, 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 and it erodes our base, right? And our democracy. So we have to believe that our country is worth fighting for, and we must do the things that we need to do in order to make sure that we have a country that is for all of us and not some of us.
Bobby Joe, thank you so much, brother. Let me bring my other guest in and say goodbye to you. Appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Come back often. And I want you to arrange for me to have a meeting with you and the Commissioner of Deed. Phenomenal work they're doing. We'd love to have that conversation here.
I'll do it right away, because I told him, Al, already I was thinking 3 steps ahead of you, which is not always often. I told him that he needs to be on with you and meet you and be interviewed by Insight, so that you have a chance to talk to him and understand what he's doing and how he can partner with Insight and McFarlane Media in order to get the word forward and talk more about Deed.
Let's make it happen. All right. Thank you, Senator Champion.
Thank you.
All right. Great. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. What a great conversation. I want to bring in 2 other leaders. I call them fierce, and I'm bringing them both in. Shauna Frazier is a realtor with Remax Results. She specializes as a buyer's agent, a listing agent. She works on short sales, property management. She markets homes utilizing a proven successful marketing plan. Her superpower is negotiating the best possible contract for her clients. And I want to bring in, I call her General Kenya McKnight. This is a warrior's warrior. Kenya McKnight is the leader of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, and it has a number of facets in the world of entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Kenya McKnight, Shauna Frazier, let me welcome you both. Thank you for being patient and for being in the room in this conversation that we had with Senator Champion. How you both doing? Let me bring you both on, and we'll have the conversation between the 3 of us here for the balance of the program. How are you both? Unmute Shauna, I guess. I'm not hearing you. There we go. Kenya, you have to unmute as well. No, I'm not. I see you talking, Shauna, but I'm not hearing you. There we go.
Okay. How about
I
now?
hear you.
Good.
Okay, hear you perfectly. Shauna, do I have your voice yet? Not yet. So you got to work that out. Vosh, work that out for me. Kenya, how you doing,
I'm
cousin?
wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Give me the update on Black Women's Wealth Alliance. What's going on top of mind with you? And then we'll bring Shauna in for the same question in just a second, okay?
Yeah, sure. Amazing. So always good to see you. Thank you for continuing to invite me to these conversations. I love it.
Absolutely.
As Senator Champion mentioned, we received a direct appropriation from the state this year for $1 million to do some workforce training, which we're excited about because we, as you know, we own the 1200 West Broadway building that we're still renovating, and we've turned it really into a mini school that focuses on 4 nodes, which we're really excited to launch, called the B Pathways. And it has 4 nodes of beauty, wellness, some general retail, and food. And so the entire building is an incubator space for Black women entrepreneurs, but also that will train future workforce across those industries. So we're super excited. That's the biggest thing happening with us. We have Open Streets coming up on September 16th, which we're super excited about. We have, Chadwick doing the avant-garde programming our stage. We have the Ella Means Fish House that's going to be featured in our food space. We have Truth Maze and the church drummers, doing some drumming, TKO Drumline, the young people doing drumming. We have a lot of performances, several vendors. The state of Minnesota will be there. The Department of Commerce, who's hiring. St. Paul College will be there. And there's so many other. Operation Hope will be there. So we're excited this year because we had the livest block last year for Open Streets. We're the block programmers for our block. And so we're going to have an even doper session this year. So I'm excited about, and then we get to hire all these new team members. And so we're in a rebuild and we're excited for where we are. We've been a little quiet because we've been working in the background, getting these things together. But when we come out, wow.
Well, the building is beautiful on the outside, the Zura building. Tell me about that, first of all. What's the concept? What are people discovering when they enter that premise? And, take a little time to talk about, the layout and the picture and the amenity.
Yeah, I'm so proud. We purchased this building 2 years ago with the idea that we would turn it into a holistic wellness complex that had some food, also wellness food. At the time, Breaking Bread, had been the tenant for in that space for, I think this year made 8 years for them. And but we, certainly had a broader vision for the building. And in that, it has 2 commercial kitchens, a mid-size restaurant, sit-down restaurant space with an outdoor patio, big prep rooms, freezers, coolers. Like, it's a lot of space in the restaurant. I think it's over total about close to 7,000 square feet. It's a nice space with some green outside. And we have 14 commercial suites. And 2 basements that are about 8,000 square feet each, are just total for the basements that are completely unused. So for me, looking at this building, remember, I was a tenant in the building for nearly 4 years before becoming the owner. And what I saw was that the building was certainly a great asset, where it's located directly in the heart of the North Side. Literally, that block is the center of North Side, and it's greatly underused. And what we need in our community more of is public resources that people can just walk in. You don't have to have an appointment. You can just come and use the space. So we imagine turning it into a big public entity that's also a destination place on the North Side. So we rebranded it, called it Zara, which means to be radiant and to flourish, just like a flower, which is our greatest aspiration for our community, to radiate and flourish positivity, good vibes, just wellness, etc. Since then, we have, you learn, you grow, and updated our vision for it, and to make it more about just more than just holistic wellness. So holistic wellness is the idea, which is why you see the visuals that you see with Kenneth Caldwell. He's done all the artwork. So he's basically, our building is a canvas for him. So we have beautiful murals of Black women and other sigils that are there to represent the things we want to share with community. One, we've done some beautiful landscaping because it's important, right, to feel good about, you know, not only where you are, but what's in your community. And we want people to feel a sense of pride and, you know, proudness because someone cares, right? Enough to make it look like something that should be here, right?
This is what you deserve. This is what you deserve. And this is who you really are.
We're
Welcome to
humans.
yourself, right?
That's right. We're humans, and you know, that kind of building, and it's not even everything is going to be. This is just, you know, phase one, you know, of just upgrading the building to, you know, and the building is a reflection of, right, my morals, what I care about, and how I want to show up in community. And so when they look at that building, I want them to see themselves, one, but two, also see that, you know, we deserve to have some, you know, the basic, right, essentials of a good quality of life, which the design, the way these buildings show up, it really matters, you know, because if everything looked run down and, you know, no one's caring about, you know, how their aesthetics look, it sends a different message to people. So I really care about aesthetics, and I understand that the environmental design has an impact on people's wellness.
Yep.
And so wellness for me is more than just the services we're providing in the door, but it's also about the way the building shows up physically, and it's the way it looks and how it's managed. Currently, we have a Himalayan salt room in there. We do massages there. We do Reiki, chakra. We have a gym inside of there. We have an adult relax room inside of there. We have esthetician services there, regenerative wellness there. We have community health education there, yoni steams. We have a retail store there where you can purchase, you know, different products, incense holders, oils, soaps, butters, all sorts of things, accessories. And so we have, and then we now, tomorrow, our hairstylist moves in. So we have a conglomerate of now 9 Black women business owners who are in the space. And we are still going to renovate. So we'll have a total of 25 of them will be there because we're planning, you know, new things for those spaces. And we have some prospective new tenants for the restaurant space, which we're renovating to upgrade it and give the building a front and back facade. But also we want to update the food space to make it a dope, live, decent, nice space that we also think the North Side deserves. I know it does. So, and as you know, Breaking Bread is transitioning out of the space right now, you know, kind of bittersweet. And, you know, they've done an amazing job over these last 8 years being there in the space and just with their work overall. I've been there from day one when they were cooking, you know, in the churches. And I know that they're looking for their forever home.
Sure.
I'm very hopeful and supportive of them. We just have a different vision for what we like to do forward. So we've given them an extension, you know, on their lease, you know, almost 2 years now, and have worked with them, you know, the entire time over the process, despite what came out in the news article. You know, we'll deal with that another time. But I know for me, keeping the integrity in the front is important. We love them, we value them, and we know they'll continue to be successful. They have a location in St. Paul, and they have had food trucks for a while now that they'll be launching into, and they'll continue being successful.
Oh yeah.
And we will
change
as well.
Change too.
Well, you know, look, and you know, I mean, it's a whole nother thing I can say, but you know, the reality is that it's business, and I also am responsible for making sure that we can maximize the impact of the building, and our business model is conflicted. I really do want to see an active, engaged space, the building is underutilized. That's the most that I'll say, and it's my job to make sure that more operators have opportunity to be in the space as well.
Enough said. Let's try to bring Shauna back in again. Shauna Frazier, you there? We lost your sound for a minute.
Can you hear me?
I hear you
Yes.
perfectly.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I always love talking to Kenya because of the energy and the power that she brings and exudes in her work and in person.
Oh, yes.
And I know you have the same spirit, same clarity and conviction. Talk about your work in real estate, helping people create opportunity for themselves, and in doing so for a community.
I just want to say Shawana is amazing, inspiring. I love your social media. Keep
Thank you.
lifting us. Thank you, Black woman.
Listen, right back at you, right? So just a little bit about me for your listening audience. My name is Shauna Frazier. I am a real estate agent with Remax Results. I'm a team leader and a coach, and I've been helping families buy, sell, and invest for over 20 years, and I absolutely love it. I'm a part of 9,000 Equities, which is phenomenal, and together we have been doing some amazing things. We have helped over 600 families. And that's just from last year. I just was able to get pulled into David McGee and Jeff and them over there. They're just, it's just amazing. So we have the same goals in mind when it comes to the community and helping people become homeowners. It's so important, so important that we own. And I feel like a lot of us don't know how important it is, and we would think that we would, but we don't when we look at the numbers of us not owning. And it just does so much for homeownership, just does so much for us, everyone, right? But us especially, it is a community because we are lacking. I mean, when it comes to generational wealth or wealth building, stability, right? Community investments. When we own, people tend to take care of their communities. I feel they take care of them, you know what I mean? And we just invest more.
Let me ask you both, how did we get sidetracked? I don't want to spend more than a minute or two on this, but how did we get sidetracked? Because coming out of the era of enslavement, we did the phenomenal in building communities and building with each other. And at some point in time, I'd say in the past generation, somehow, like talking about home ownership, for example, Shauna, you and I know people that ought to be homeowners that aren't.
Yes.
And haven't thought about it. And it blows my mind. I'm talking about people in my family. Why don't you own a home? And so what happened?
I definitely feel, I just want to bring my grandparents up. And I think about home ownership. My grandparents were among the, they're most significant to me during my upbringing when it comes to home ownership. They held a prominent place in our community, especially when revolving around home ownership. It was 7 of them, and only 1 didn't own. And every house that my grandfather bought, when I learned later in life, he wasn't supposed to be there. If it was found out that an agent had sold him a house in that community, they would have lost their real estate license. So I feel like you said the last year, I feel like it's just the education piece. And you think it's people like Kenya, it's people like you, it's like David, we've all been doing this for a long time. And it's like, I feel like I'm saying the same thing, right? Yeah. But every time you meet someone that comes in and they're just so grateful, they're like, I didn't know. And it's like, well, where did we drop the ball in educating or getting educated? That's the biggest thing. To me, it's just like education.
Kenny, what do you think? I mean, and what do we have to do? That's the whole point. That's why I'm here, because I think that's my mission, is to elevate and explain, to create a new narrative. But what do you think was the disconnect, Kenya?
Yeah, I agree with Shawana, but I think for me, I have this other little, I like to think that there's just so much financial trauma that we're still struggling through, and education about ownership, but also the importance of like why to own. It's not just about I got a house. It's like, oh, this is tied to politics. It's, for instance, owning even my commercial building, right? I get to make powerful decisions that, yes, affect people, good or bad, but it's about as an owner, right? For instance, the sidewalks on the side, of Fremont side have been broken for about 20 years. I'm a long time North Sider. I know these sidewalks, right? And so, it's the city's problem. It's well, as the owner, I made it my problem, right? And so I just paid the money to get the sidewalks fixed. And what does that mean? Now my community has a way to walk safely, right? With the strollers, with the wheelchairs, and, without injury, and so this is part of the power of ownership, right? I get to decide who can be there, right? I get to decide, how my property is managed, cared for, right? My tax dollars, I pay 35 grand a year. It matters, right? I get to say this. And people talk to me about decisions they're going to make or they're considering before, so it's more than just, the power of like I own. No, you're connected to a whole different system of decisions, of policy, right? Of impact, and it's so much. And so I think, going a step further to educate folks about that is important. I purchased my great grandmother's home last year. I'm the fourth generational owner, and she's had that house for a long time. I grew up in that house. And I think that we just don't think enough about the power of it and the importance of how we keep these resources through generation, how they can be used to support families. I watch white families do it all the time, where the parents at the house, and now the children are grown up and they're older. Now they have a family. Well, the parents will move out the house they own, let the children live in there, right? And they're living in there almost debt free, right? Because the mortgage is paid. It's a wealth strategy. It's more than just, owning the house. It's about how you use it to support generations ahead. That's, wealth is the idea of not the now, but the future. And so, and we're in the now. And so getting past the now to me is the trauma, and moving beyond the now, because I may not realize everything I want to, but what I'm doing in my investments, have to benefit that which is coming after me. That's the wealth mind. It's part of the wealth mind that I think is missing in how we think about building.
Shauna, home ownership, I believe, is a gift that keeps on giving. And I testify that being an owner of a house in North Minneapolis has allowed me to start and run my business and to send my kids through private school and to college. And it goes on and on. And so how do we tell Al McFarlane's story, Kenya's story, Shauna's story, so that it becomes part of what I call the public mind? Everybody knows this is the route to being our best selves, financial, self-sustaining, connected, and by who we are, building something essential and natural coming out of our shared experience and vision. What do you think, Shauna Frazier?
I think exactly what everything that both of you have, everything that everyone's been saying, sharing the stories, because a lot of us learn from that. And a lot of us have to see people like us buying homes, because a lot of times we feel like it's something that's not for us. And a lot of times it's easier than we think. And even though that it's, when it comes home ownership, we're the last on the totem pole right now. It really is. If you get with an organization like Kenya's, David's, mine, we're there to help you. You know what I mean? We're there to help you and walk you through that journey, because it might not always be, I said it might not be as easy for you, but we're there with you. If you are willing, and if your desire is to become homeowner, that is what we're here to do. It makes us, there's no greater reward, and when I say share the stories, the last, and I'm sharing names, stories, no names, but the last, I would say 7 people that I met with that are looking to sell their home. They've owned their home anywhere from 3 to 10 years, and they're all walking away with over 6 figures. And so when we're talking about share the stories, those are the type of stories that need to be shared, because we don't know that. You know what I mean?
Do we lose wealth when you sell a house, even though you get 6 figures? Is that a good thing to do, or how does a person approach that?
I love that you brought that up, because a lot of times they're selling it, and sometimes they're upgrading to a bigger home, so they're using that portion of the money to put down on another home, or they're downsizing. So either way, so we're not actually getting rid of the home altogether. Right. But we're that's the thing about the beauty of home ownership. We don't always have to get into that home and, just pay that one down. We can move, because sometimes our first home isn't our dream home. Right. And then again, we outgrow the home. We might have could handle steps, and now we can't. So, but I love that you brought that out, so your listeners can hear. Yeah, because some people, and then I love, Ken, you brought out earlier, we have homes in our family where family member has passed away, but it's still in the family. It's still in the family, right? We know that's the house. So, just all of those things, we need to be more educated. And again, we think that we're doing our part, right? But it still needs to be, screamed from the mountaintop just how important home ownership is. And Again, I'm happy to be a part of this panel, and I love, like I said, what we're all doing to making sure that we're doing just that, educating people.
And if I can just jump
Go
in
ahead.
and say, yes, I 100% agree. And I think that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, one is that, I just got to be honest, we should, is that the resources primarily that are deployed for home ownership are for low income communities.
Mhm.
And by far that misses out our growing population of middle class Black folks who don't qualify for the down payment assistance programs and et cetera. And they don't have the capital, the liquidity to pay, that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 down payment that's required. And so I think part of the strategy necessary to increase Black home ownership, I was trying to buy a house a couple years ago, it was $700,000. Now I have the income and everything for it. But I didn't qualify for support. What I didn't have was the $70,000 that was required of me to put down. And so I think this is where we're missing Black folks. We're saying do better. And as we're trying, to build, there's not any support, for that when you reach outside of poverty, and so if we're really going to make, I think, real segue or more significant segue than we are making, because we're making good progress. I want to make sure we keep that intact, but we've got to figure out a tool and resources to support that base of people, because otherwise we're saying, all the savings, all the assets, liquidate everything you have just to buy this house. And you're the person, right? You're the person in your family. And so you've worked hard and you don't have it all, but you've got to give away everything just for this house. And so I think that's part of the deficit in the wealth game that we're dealing with. And until we figure out some real tools that will support upper mobility of Black folks in a real way, that isn't about building you from poverty, but saying now that you made it above the threshold just a little bit, we can still help you along the way. And we're leaving that population out, which means we're missing out on real Black wealth building. So that's my plies, and I just want to make sure, because we can't keep talking about it just from the perspective of low income. We're not all that, and we work hard not to be, right? And so, but where and how we meeting our folks as they reach over that threshold, then we don't find ourselves being criminals, having to lie about income and all this just to get.
Which comes to the value of having President Senator Bobby Champion and a growing number of representatives and managers and leaders in positions in public sector. I think we have to lean on them and lean with them and allow them to lean on the apparatus to make it deliver value for us. That's what I think. Got a minute left. Shauna, give people contact information. Somebody wants to buy a house right now and they need your advice. How do they connect with you?
ShaunaFrazier.com, Shauna Frazier 952-220-5802. Reach out to me. I love to help. Can I just say one other thing? Yeah. We got a home buying event tomorrow evening. It's virtual. So if you're someone that would like to attend, text me and I'll send you the link to RSVP. We're also going to be at the Back in the Day Saturday. That's the Back in the Day Southside event. And we're going to be giving away free backpacks, and there's going to be all kind of free information. Come down there and eat, smile, laugh. Again, 9,000 Equities is doing some amazing things. If you are interested in being a part of that, we'd love to assist you. So reach out to me again, 952-220-5802. Thank you.
Kenya, final shout out to anybody?
Yeah, I'm going to say, don't call me if you want to buy a house. Call Shauna. I'll refer you over there to Shawana and 9,000 Equities. I'm a partner and a supporter. I believe in that, and I believe in everything that we're all doing, because everything we're all doing matters. That's right. And we need everybody to be successful. So show up, support, and thank you, Mr. McFarlane.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
What a wonderful show. Thanks to Shauna Frazier. Thanks to Kenya McKnight Ahad. Thanks to Senator President of the Senate, Bobby Joe Champion. And thank you for listening, being a part of this. Remind you, support by registering, by subscribing. Go to YouTube, Insight News MN, and subscribe. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.